I'll wait until you set that. That's it. And then I shall start to share my screen if I may.
It's recording.
Yeah, we're on.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, ladies. It's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me. Right. I'm on a different computer tonight, so please forgive me if I'm a little slower than normal. Just looking to open the slideshow. Right, perhaps Karen, could you just give me a thumbs up? You can see my screen okay. Fantastic, that's great.
Yeah.
So, right, secret to sensitivity. As Karen said, my name is Gabrielle, and you're a fellow, and I run the Karana Center in Ardingly and also the not-for-profit organisation known as the Karana Foundation. I'm going to share a little bit about that space with you in a moment, because it very much has been a great influence for the kind of work I've been bringing in the last 10 years since I set up the centre. So in this talk, what I'd like to share with you all is, first of all, a little bit about me and really why I feel very drawn to support people who I would consider to be highly sensitive, but also why I love to create spaces where sensitive people can thrive. So what I'd like to cover as well is what it really means to be an HSP. You've probably come across that, that term, a highly sensitive person, or otherwise known as an empath, somebody who actually is very sensitive to the energy around them. I'd like to cover how we can safely release our feelings of anxiety and overwhelm and look after ourselves, more carefully, and therefore create a sense of greater balance, confidence, calmness, and ease. Often I come across people who I would consider to be highly sensitive, and sometimes they struggle with healthy self-esteem. So often early on in their lives, they have grown up feeling that either there's something wrong with them, or they don't fit in, or they just don't understand why everybody else gets something. They struggle in some way. So I'm going to go into more detail with that during the course of this presentation. And I know some of you, I was looking at the Telegram conversation. Some of you had a look at the questionnaire that I circulated through Karen last week, and you were saying, yeah, I really resonate with some of those questions on that questionnaire. Maybe for you, as you read those questions and you started to sort of look at this in a little bit more depth, you started to feel like, gosh, yeah, that's really me. Some of those questions really relate to the person that I am and always have been. I'd also like to share with you some tips for really helping to care for others who may be sensitive, especially children, kids, teens, even animals. Sometimes we as sensitive people often attract sensitive animals into our home environment as well. So, I will look to cover that as well. I'm going to provide you with some opportunities to work with me if you're interested in that, and also hopefully some time for questions at the end as well. And I've created a free ebook called Secret to Sensitivity. And as a thank you, I'd be very happy to share that with anybody who's listening to this call live or listening to the recording. If you just want to pop an email across to that address, I'll happily put it into the Telegram account as well. I shall send you a copy of that ebook, because it kind of goes into a little bit more detail on some of the main areas that I'm going to be covering here for you this evening. So this is my space in Ardingly that Karen mentioned. It's called the Karana Center, and I actually have had that space now for coming up for 10 years and tend to feel it's a space that naturally attracts and supports highly sensitive, highly gifted individuals of all ages. We have quite a variety of different activities running within the space. My own program includes a variety of workshops and classes and one-to-one therapies as well. And I'm joined by a team of about 25 members of the space who also deliver their services from within this particular environment. That's a very special little girl there who actually, funny enough, I'll tell you a quick story about her before I begin to talk about the relevance of why she's here. I actually gave a treatment to her mum when she was about 8 months pregnant. So this lovely little girl called Freya, very, very sensitive little girl. And she told me telepathically how excited she was to be coming into this world, and she'd chosen the best parents. Now, I know her mum and dad, and they're wonderfully sensitive and very, very supportive of her sensitivity. So, I've held a really beautiful relationship with her and her family for the last 9 years. It's been fantastic. So that is Freya. So the space, the Karana Center, provides a whole host of classes and workshops. And we also offer something called a Live Well course, which originally was designed for adults, but also now we offer activities for children, for teenagers, really supporting them with their health and well-being on every level. We try and make that fairly mainstream, I would say, covering all sorts of things from, really simple mindfulness activities right through to more specific tips that we want to share around, helping to support the release of anxiety and stress, helping people to sleep better. We include a yoga nidra class, things like this. So a whole variety of sort of things that we offer the participants of the Live Well program really comes in. We offer it over a 4-week term, and the people that have actually attended that course so far have absolutely loved it. Not just for people who are highly sensitive, but really for anyone who wants to improve their health and well-being. We also offer monthly wellbeing markets. So we open up the space once a month and have a variety of stands offering taster therapies, readings, some really nice ethical organic products as well. And again, I think all of these things are really, really well suited to people who are highly sensitive, because as we're going to find out through the course of this presentation, really looking after ourselves is the key. It's so, so important when we're quite empathic in nature to look after our energy. And I'm sure many of you already know that to be true for yourselves. And the Karana Foundation is the not-for-profit side of what I do. So we produce resources that are aiming to help parents, carers, and teachers create environments where children and young people can thrive. A little bit about me personally. So for 15 years, I've been facilitating such a variety of different programs, both for individuals and groups. So these really cover a whole host of different sort of energy modalities, healing modalities. I trained in vibrational medicine, and as Karen said, I actually gave a talk to this group a few months ago about the magic of dowsing. I actually absolutely fell in love with dowsing and using that as a healing modality a number of years ago, and I'm absolutely passionate about using it for myself, for clients, and teaching a program around that as well. I run a relaxation through art and meditation monthly activity, creative feng shui classes, and I tend to really feel that a lot of the people that come on my workshops and participate in my programs are naturally very sensitive, just like me. I've always been sensitive. I've always felt a bit different to perhaps some of the people that, maybe I grew up with or used to go to work with. And, it took me quite a number of years to really find my niche. And again, I think that's another secret to staying in balance as a sensitive, is finding your niche. So during this time, I've also organised a huge variety of events and activities. We organised the Carers Day for the local Mid Sussex District Council, and various wellbeing events. I've worked in corporates. I've also done quite a lot of writing, articles for magazines, and I'm beginning to sort of pull together the content of my first book at the moment. So that's new. So the one thing I'm truly passionate about is creating spaces where sensitive kids and teens can thrive. And I hope you don't mind me sharing a few photographs before I go into really what sensitivity is about, from the programs I ran this summer. So this was July through to September 2021. The Karana Center began to run these beautiful Live Well workshops for kids and teenagers. And you can see in that image on the left there, we were sharing all sorts of different things with these children, young people. So I was breaking the age groups down. This particular photo on the left there relates to a group who were sort of 5 to 10 years. We were looking at how to work with crystals, with sound therapy, with oracle cards, relaxation through meditation. We got them drawing and painting and making things, and they all thoroughly enjoyed coming into the space and having time to really, really relax. I would say that all of them are sensitive. They very much, fall within that area, and perhaps find it may be quite a challenge to manage too much stimulation, particularly within the education system. Some of them were having, some really difficult situations they were needing to manage. The picture on the right there is of an older group that we did a lot of artwork with, and it was just astounding, some of the things they were creating, when they feel really relaxed in an environment that really truly supports them. They were absolutely amazed by what they were able to create, and very proud of the pieces of artwork they were taking home, which was lovely. I'm passionate about working with colour as well. I find it a really, really amazing tool to teach people how to look after their energy. And again, if I don't necessarily want to bring in anything that's too overtly spiritual, if I bring in the colour therapy, children, teenagers really, really can resonate with this. And it was so wonderful to see, really how they were responding to the kind of the ideas we were sharing. When I took them into meditation, which again isn't necessarily something they're used to doing, they would be in meditation, say for the young ones, obviously it'd be fairly quick, but for the old ones, say 30 minutes, 40 minutes, they would come out of these meditations and their whole imagination had been completely activated. And they would spend the next 20 minutes writing down everything they saw or felt within that practice. And it was just so lovely to see them really engaging and getting so much from these activities. So there's a few more photos there. The young girl at the top there, she was learning how to do some dowsing. And then the two young boys, they're actually doing a crystal treatment, or a crystal healing treatment on their mum, who happens to be a primary school teacher. And the two youngsters at the bottom there, bottom right, had just created some really beautiful rainbow color boards, and they were learning to send vibrational codes of energy to each other through the use of color and through dowsing. So this program really combined crystal therapy, color therapy, and creativity with the vibrational medicine techniques, which I've been learning over the course of the last 5 years, really to promote optimum health and well-being and to help young people relax. So it was wonderful to kind of test it on this, particular age group. But I know it works incredibly well on sensitive adults that I work with, and I really wanted to see the impact of, how it would affect the youngsters. What I'm really noticing is young people especially love learning about energy. I've worked in schools, particularly in secondary schools, and when you kind of get them working with energy, feeling the energy and noticing what happens when they consciously, start to bring energy into the room and they connect with each other that way, their whole energy fields light up. and it's really exciting for them. So for me, it's a great thing to share because I get such a positive response from them. But the beauty is it gives them some really valuable tools to learn how to manage their sensitivity. And that's something I feel very motivated by, because it's something I feel we need to bring into the education system. Something that I really feel I would have benefited from. I'm sure many of you listening would agree that if you'd have had so many of the tools that perhaps you have now at this stage in your life, but when you were younger, you perhaps would have coped, with the challenges in a much more effective way. So these tools, really, the techniques we were sharing, were helping them to also really safely release and resolve very uncomfortable emotions. And occasionally I do work with individual young people who've gone through a particularly traumatic time. And, I use all of those tools that I've just described to really help them to release things, and they never even realize they're in therapy. It is amazing. They just happen to enjoy the experience. And it's almost like they're quite detached, and they can observe perhaps the piece of artwork they're creating, or the way, they felt when they held a crystal during a meditation. And somehow the energy and the awareness and the intention of resolving any uncomfortable feelings is enough to help them make a real shift. And, it's been fascinating for me to really observe this in these young people. Overall, I think the workshops have really helped them to enhance their confidence and healthy self-esteem. And I think we're going to need to see this more and more, modalities coming in now that really support young people and help them to manage their sensitivity. So that's a little bit about the work I've been doing with young people. But here, what I'd like to share now is a little bit more detail about what sensitivity is, how it shows up. And I'm sure those of you who wrote, perhaps read the questionnaire and maybe tick some of the boxes or tick some of the questions to say, yeah, that resonates with me, and so does that, and so does that. This will give you a little bit more information. So sensitivity, as I'm sure we all know, manifests for different people in different ways. We're all completely unique. What I've noticed, though, over the course of really the last 20 years since I've been researching more about it, working with people who are highly sensitive, there are quite a few noticeable traits that are common in sensitive people. And often you can see those in children and young people as they, begin to socialize and begin to sort of step up in the world. Now, chances are you were born sensitive. So it's not something that necessarily comes in when you reach a certain age. Most people who I would describe as being highly sensitive were born that way. It's almost as if their system is wired slightly different in some respects. And I'll go on to talk about that a little bit more in a moment. What is also interesting is our sensitivity tends to naturally increase as we become older. So you may have been able to get away with certain things when you were younger, but as you get older, actually sometimes things tend to affect you even more. So often we do need to look for really helpful solutions and ways to manage our sensitivity. Now, often we think that everybody else senses things in the same way that's like us, but particularly when we're children, we don't really realize that other people may have a different kind of experience to us. But chances are that's unlikely, because the percentage of people who are born sensitive is actually quite small. It's around about 20%. So thinking of yourself as being perhaps just wired a little bit differently from those who are less sensitive almost helps in a way, because you begin to realize that your response to life is different. Naturally, sensitive people tend to react more quickly to the threat of danger. And there is a purpose behind this. It's very much that you will then be more responsible for making sure that everybody else remains safe. So if 20% of the population has been wired differently, it therefore ensures survival of the species. And scientists have discovered that actually this occurs in pretty much all mammals. 20% will always be more sensitive than the remaining 80%. I personally tend to feel that that number may be shifting, particularly with the young people coming in, because so many of the young people now really have some tremendous gifts and abilities, and I would consider them to be within that sort of highly sensitive person kind of description. So yeah, that kind of percentage may be shifting. Now, this might seem a bit puzzling to you. This is where the scientists began to do some of their research. They really noticed that within a herd of cows, there will always be 20% who will be always on the lookout for danger, to spot any signs of, a predator coming in the distance. You notice the 4 cows there are all kind of looking down, munching grass. They're not really noticing what's going on around them. But the one in the foreground there is looking out to see what potential threat there may be. And again, I find it quite interesting. It's quite an interesting photograph because it literally is the 20% of the herd here. And I love the fact that it's a beautiful cow with these lighter colors as well, because often we see sensitive people as being quite fair-skinned as well, often having red hair. Often they have some physical traits that kind of help us to realize actually they're a bit more sensitive perhaps than the other people around them. So what does this mean? As someone who's sensitive, you do tend to react quicker to outside stimuli than other people do. But the additional thing is you're picking up information using all of your senses, which tend to be more developed than in those people who are less sensitive. So I'm sure many of you listening here will already know that you're especially switched on in terms of maybe insight, being able to hear things that other people can't hear. Sometimes sensitive people have difficulty with texture, for example, certain clothes. I know people that have to cut the labels out of clothes because they rub on their delicate skin. Sometimes people's smell is activated and it's almost like they have a very increased sense of smell. The one thing that seems to be very common between sensitive people is they have a heightened sixth sense. So their instinct, intuition, ESP, whatever you want to call it, is stronger than in perhaps those who are less sensitive. And interestingly, this can be heightened for some of the time or even all of the time. So continuously. And I come across a lot of children, young people especially, who simply can't close down. It's just not possible for them. So they are very, very much multi-dimensional. They're having experiences in a variety of dimensions all at once. And this is why they often talk about having sort of, we would call them invisible friends, but they're absolutely clear to them. They can see them, feel them, hear them, touch them. They have names. These are kind of like their spirit friends who are as real to them as perhaps a friend that they might invite round for tea. So we've got to be aware that children especially have this increased sensitivity, and many of those children cannot close this down. And it's important for us as adults to hold space for that. Particularly if it frightens them. I don't think it generally does frighten them to begin. Sometimes it's an adult who maybe turn something around to perhaps suggest that something could become fearful in that way. But obviously children do sometimes get to a point where, they're having experiences that are something they can't understand. And if they don't have an adult nearby who can help them process it and make sense of it in a way that they can understand, then yes, fear can come in. Confusion can come in, frustration can come in. Now, sensitive people, because of their ability to pick up so much information about what's going on around them, and even on a very subtle level sometimes, can really become overstimulated and overwhelmed. So there's various things that sensitive people really do need to ensure they build in to their routine in order to stay in balance. Often they find it very difficult to separate their energy from the energy of those people around them. And really, in terms of feelings, they feel things perhaps more deeply as well. It almost has a stronger sensation within their body. Everything is magnified. Everything is amplified. Because they react to threat or danger, sometimes they can go into what we call fight or flight more easily and much more quickly than those people who are less sensitive. In my experience, often when I've worked with people who are highly sensitive, they tend to have a very, very flexible energy field. I did a show in London, about 6 years ago, and I think I talked to about 300 parents during the course of 4 days at this particular show. And so many of them were asking me to, really for advice about what they could do to support their sensitive children. One thing I would say for anyone who's sensitive is to really begin to understand where your energy field is and what is within it. Just because you may not be able to see it doesn't mean to say it doesn't exist. We all know as therapists that, we have a combination of different layers of energy that wrap around the physical. And these relate to the emotional field, the mental field, and the spiritual field. Now, often with highly sensitive people, when they're doing something they really love and really brings them joy, their energy field expands dramatically. It's like a big rubber band that's being stretched. Okay, now I find this particularly with children, until they learn to just pull their energy field in a little bit, they can be very, very open. It's very porous in quality, their energy field. So, we know that quite a few sort of practices that we follow or healing modalities strengthen our auric field. We also know that sometimes we can have damage in the auric field and actually around specific chakra points, say if there's any specific trauma that's happened. So we've really got to learn to look after our energy field as sensitive people. And then we have some control. We can kind of hold the intention to pull it in and activate that through our intention, through our imagination, through meditation. Sometimes we can literally hold the intention to pull our energy field in and feel more protected and feel more solid. So this is something I would say to anyone who's got loved ones they care for, children, young people, or really anyone of any age where there's a high degree of sensitivity. If you can somehow teach them how to strengthen this auric field, that's going to help them enormously, because they won't absorb things like a sponge in quite the same way as they may have done, without that work. So sensitive people sometimes therefore find it harder to really relax and switch off, because on some level they're picking up everything in their environment, even though it may be very subtle. It might not be a sound or a smell or something that others can necessarily be aware of or feel themselves, but a sensitive person will often just feel that something's off. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I know something's off here. I'm sure many of you have walked into a room where perhaps there's been an exchange of words, perhaps there haven't been, gentle words, maybe angry words, or maybe an argument, and you can almost cut the air with a knife because the energy has changed, it's shifted. If nobody has opened a window or a door or done anything to clear that environment, the energy of those angry words remains. Energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transmuted into a better form. So sensitive people are often going into spaces and picking up the residue of what has been left within them from the people who've been there before, or the whatever has happened in that space before they enter the room. I don't know if any of you kind of feel that when you go into spaces where there's a lot of emotional energy. Sometimes when you go into spaces like hospitals or doctor surgeries or even school environments, you know, where there's a lot of energy and a lot of energy bouncing around, sometimes mixed in terms of some of it's positive, some of it's negative, it can make you feel quite unsettled. I personally have never found it particularly easy to go into like a supermarket or, you know, into places where a lot of people dump energy. They're not always conscious of doing it, but, you know, sensitive people, a friend of mine, she used to find it very difficult to even go into a restaurant sometimes. She would feel, you know, the energy of all the people who'd been in there. And yeah, it took her a while to really learn how to deal with that. So we generally have a harder time relaxing and switching off because we're so aware, so super aware of what's going on in our environment. When I work with sensitive people, often I really feel it's necessary for them to begin to create an environment that's right for them. And by that, I mean, you know, their home environment and or their place of work or study. It really does need to reflect what they as an individual would need. And I think it's really important for us as sensitive people, obviously, to spend as much time as possible outside in nature, being in sunshine, you know, connecting with the elements as well. That can help us enormously. I'm sure many of you, when you need that time and that space, you take yourself out for a walk and you spend time with the trees or with flowers or in a beautiful garden, because those generally have a higher vibration and are more of a match to our energy field. So it's really important sometimes for us to be careful about the places we visit, especially while we're kind of learning how to manage our sensitivity. Sometimes we need to just perhaps even keep, you know, a diary where we note down some of the places that feel really good and other places where we actually really would rather not visit again. I think having a routine in place to support sensitivity is one of the most fundamental things you can do for yourself, and really kind of becoming more aware of what supports that routine and how you can, you know, manage your energy in different spaces and with different people as well. I'm going to talk about that in a little while as well. So I'm just going to turn that bit down for a moment. So it would be interesting to know, and I'm very happy to take questions a bit later on, how you responded to the questions that I put together in the questionnaire. I think many people I meet who are sensitive or highly sensitive often feel very different to other people, like they don't fit in. I think this generally comes from the fact that our society has certain expectations upon the way we behave, and you know, we'll kind of often say, well, this is the acceptable way, you know, and anything else just doesn't fit in. So we kind of grow up with this belief that we don't fit in, and that's something we may consciously need to change as we get older. To really find our place, to feel at home within ourselves. A lot of people I meet who are highly sensitive, I would say particularly conscientious. They often naturally get drawn into caring roles. I see a lot of nurses and caregivers and teachers who really feel the importance of caring for others. They're very sensitive to other people's needs, and they naturally get drawn into those kind of environments where they can provide that, you know, sensitive level of care. They can often be perfectionists. There's a sense they really want to get things right. They fear making mistakes. Again, it goes with being very conscientious and showing up as their best self, really, in a way. But often, as we know, this perfectionism doesn't always serve us, because it can create all sorts of other kind of challenges that follow on. And we really need to learn to be really accepting of ourselves and content with what we're able to provide, and believing it is enough. That's something that's really important as well. Now, most sensitive people would need time alone to really come back into balance. If they've spent, say, a weekend with a group of people, or they've been in a crowded space, they're going to need a similar amount of time to recover in some ways, because they've probably picked up on the energy, the feelings, the emotions, all the conversations in a way that is much more, deep than people who are less sensitive. So they need time for inward reflection and to really process what they've experienced. And naturally, because of some of those things I've mentioned, they sometimes do experience periods of low self-esteem. I mean, how many of you grew up with being told, oh, you're so sensitive, like a criticism or a put down? So many of us were, picked up on that. Or, you cry too much, or this happens, or that happens, If you're the one sensitive individual in a family of people who aren't so sensitive, remember, you're that 20%. They may have criticized you for the way, you responded to them, and grown up with the belief that you're not good enough. So that really does start to impact on you as you reach into your teenage years, into your 20s and 30s, but it can happen at any time. So sometimes sensitive people can really feel pain and pleasure more deeply. And the nature of busy environments can really send everything into a spin, because they're picking up on everything that's being shared energetically. So the seen and unseen within an environment they're picking up on. And coupled with their natural ability to need to process information more slowly, this can create a lot of frustration. Often sensitive people do not like to be rushed, certainly not rushed into making a decision. They like to consider everything that's available to them before they move forward, particularly if they have a fear of making mistakes. And often they will naturally withdraw from, challenges, experiences that feel uncomfortable, that maybe generate uncomfortable emotions, and any kind of crosswords. If there's any kind of argument going on with someone else, they will naturally retreat. And sometimes they really do need to learn to stand in space and hold their own energy, stay within their power, and find the right words to express how they feel, whilst they're probably picking up what's going on for the other person as well, because they're naturally absorbing, that kind of energy that's coming from them. They love animals and nature, often to be found with lots of animals around them, or at least a love of animals. So, for them, sometimes they even say, oh, I love, just going home, spending time with my dog or my cat, spending time outside in gardens, in woods, near the sea. That is something that's very clear among sensitive individuals. They can really be affected by tension and stress more easily. And as I mentioned before, aware of dangers. I remember working with a lady once, and she said to me, she, as a child, used to keep a suitcase in her wardrobe packed, so she knew she could get away. She felt it was, is that really crazy? I said, no, because that was your coping mechanism. That's what you felt comfortable with. You knew that you always had that there. So if you needed to leave the house quickly, that was her way of managing. And often they experience allergies, food intolerances. Often sensitive children will experience eczema, kind of irritation in the skin, asthma, other kind of allergies towards, hay fever, allergies to pets, even, and a variety of kind of toxic things as well, you know, and obviously certain foodstuffs too. So that again tends to point towards someone being more sensitive. And then number 14, they often absorb other people's moods and energy. And this is where things start to get a bit overwhelming, because often they think or feel that those moods and energy belong to them. And it can be a question of they don't know where they end and the other person begins, if you see what I mean. Again, it's a merger of the energy fields. When they learn to pull the energy in, when they really start to take control of that and work through other kind of exercises to support themselves on an energetic level, often that starts to change. So again, simple tools that we can teach them or share with them to help them manage. Having a very, you know, sponge-like kind of energy field that naturally picks up the energy of other people. So fortunately, I know a lot of sensitive people who are in self-employment, and they really do thrive in spaces and in situations where they can manage their diary, where others really do appreciate them and the gifts they bring. I've noticed a lot of sensitive people are drawn to work in the areas of healing, the arts, as I mentioned before, in the caring professions. Often they have a very detailed approach to things and a very specific way of viewing and appreciating the world. And this really helps to inspire other people. So in my work, the priority really is to help them stay more balanced and aligned, and to understand that their sensitivity really is a gift. So I'd like to take you through a few points here that I think could create a formula for really helping someone, whether it's yourself or someone you know, to manage their sensitivity. These are kind of 7 areas that I feel are essential at the beginning, that may be of help in some way. So firstly, an increase in self-awareness. You know, the more we get to know ourselves, the more we know what it is we truly need. I would just ask you these questions. What can you do to become more conscious and more self-aware? Can you take out more time for yourself? Can you begin to incorporate a meditation practice into your routine, or maybe time for self-reflection, self-inquiry through journaling or asking yourself specific questions? Many practices, such as mindfulness, you know, Reiki, transcendental meditation, yoga, can help enormously. Scientists are now proving how these really support our nervous systems to calm everything down within the body and help, you know, certain areas of the brain to light up as well. So it's almost like our awareness becomes expanded when we practice these particular exercises. Art and creativity can have a very, very powerful effect on our imagination and our ability to really connect and engage with the right side of the brain. So the right side of the brain really needs to be supported in a variety of ways. And if we don't have activities within our life that balance the left and right hemispheres of the brain, we can become very out of balance. So I think the increase in self-awareness will help anybody who is sensitive, because naturally they'll begin to understand themselves in a whole new way. And hopefully they will also make time to just slow down, to regularly check in with themselves, and to just notice some of the changes, some of the triggers, notice the impact certain environments may be having on the way they feel as they enter into them, so that they just become more mindful of the kind of experiences they want to have, and a better way to look after themselves and protect themselves in some way too. A focus on self-nurture as well, I feel, is essential. You know, the people I come across who I work with are often very, very giving, so loving and sharing. And they would literally, you know, they've got hearts of gold. As lovely as that is, and how beautiful it is to see and witness, we do need to have this in balance. We must be self-loving towards ourselves. And I feel we need to get that back into balance. We need to learn to be open to receive as sensitive individuals. We need to ask for help and ask for support, but be open as well to receive whatever needs to come in. Questions you could ask yourself: what do you really truly love to do? You know, maybe what did you do when you were younger that really brought you a sense of excitement and inspiration and joy? Occasionally, you know, if we feel inclined to put others first, can we stop for a moment and just make sure our own needs are being met too? We can be sensitive people, can be very supportive of others because they make great listeners. They make you know, really lovely people to go to when you feel like you need to talk something through. But you know, it's important that those sensitive people really make sure they're looking after themselves well and they're filling up their own cup before they kind of you know, share their guidance and their wisdom and their gifts with other people too. So what are your personal values and how can you honor these? This really goes back to increasing self-awareness. The more you understand what your own personal values are, the more you can honor them, the more you can meet them. And if we're living in a family or we're in a work environment where perhaps other people have different sets of values that are important to them, we can sometimes lose ourselves within that structure and think that that's what we want too. But if we don't know ourselves well enough, then we can often ignore our own basic needs and the importance of those. So there's a few things there for perhaps you to think about and see if you could ask yourself those questions, see what the answers are. Understanding and maintaining energy is hugely important too. If you think of your energy like a bank account, you know, very, very important for us to put money into a bank account before we withdraw the money. Otherwise, we end up going overdrawn. We've got to make time to put energy into our day, to build ourselves up, to raise our vibration before we start giving that energy away in whatever shape or form we need to, whether it be through other people or environments or just activities we need to do. So perhaps think about which activities truly serve you and your energy and act as deposits. They're like really positive things that you can do that kind of almost give you more energy. And then which activities could reduce the amount of energy you have available. So if you notice that going and spending time with a particular person really depletes you, but you feel you still need to do that, maybe it's a family member who's been going through, you know, poor health or stress or going through lots of changes, and you can't not go and see them and spend time with them. What can you do to support yourself before you make that visit, before you spend time with them, before you pick up the phone and speak to them? How can you look after yourself first before you share that energy with other people? So often I get people to look at what they can do to support their energy first thing in the morning, first thing in the day. It could be that they love dancing. So I would recommend perhaps they put together, you know, a playlist of all these, you know, 5 or 6 different songs they love to dance around to that really just raises their vibration and gets them into a really positive mood where they feel uplifted and joyful. It's incredible the effect of these simple changes, you know, what they can do to really help you balance your energy through the day. And then what can be repeated through the day to ensure you have the right energy available for everything you want to do, all the activities you've got planned, times when you need to spend, you know, your energy with other people, and maybe it's certain environments as well that you need to be into. Now, obviously, it's important sometimes for sensitive people to have a certain amount of protection around themselves. And I think that's particularly important if they're going into environments that are challenging, where perhaps there may be quite a bit of negative energy. So I would always recommend perhaps using crystals or certain processes you could follow just to really, again, look after that energy field. One of the best things sensitive people really can do is a regular chakra cleanse. And there are so many different recordings available, you know, on YouTube and other platforms where you can just follow a short guided meditation and literally open and close your energy centers in your body and cleanse your chakras to release the buildup of any kind of toxic energy that may be sitting there. We're always conscious of it. The way to become conscious of it is to notice how you feel. If you feel vibrant and alive and positive, on the whole, your energy field is going to be flowing really well. But if you're feeling pulled down, if you're feeling, you know, and just really compromised in some way, chances are you need to give your energy a boost. And there's lots of ways to do that, but I would definitely recommend a chakra cleanse as often as possible. It will really help you in your development as well. It'll help you really have confidence and clarity in so many ways. So the next tip I would like to share with you is really to consider gratitude, to really notice those things that really you are particularly grateful for. I noticed that a lot of sensitive and empathic people, they're real absorbers of energy. And because of this tendency to be transmuters, they tend to pick up the energy of other people and the environments they're in. So they do need to work at raising their vibration. And there's lots of ways you can raise your vibration, but I think gratitude is one of the simplest ways to begin. And the beauty with this is it really raises your vibration. It highlights in your life what's working and what you love and enjoy. And actually, it supports you to manifest more of that, because the universe is listening and feeling into your energy and noticing what you are responding to and wanting to give you more of those things. So we know through the law of attraction that gratitude really is a very powerful way to manifest the kind of experiences we would love to have. I believe that developing gifts is a very special way forward. You know, when we give ourselves permission to really notice what gifts we have, what we're naturally good at, to spend time cultivating them, then we really do begin to thrive as empaths. Now, the primary gift, I believe, is often the sensitivity itself. Sensitivity often makes people great listeners. They support many people around them. They are a safe listening ear for many people. As I've mentioned, they often transmute energy. So often people will come up to you and say, oh, I always feel great when I see you. You know, you might not be conscious of it. They might not be conscious of it. But on some level, you're a kind of healer, somebody who can help people kind of sort their lives out and make better choices and just be there for them in many ways. Now, a lot of people I support go on to develop all sorts of different gifts, whether it be through the healing arts, through expression. So many of the very gifted people we know have so many ways of sharing their own unique voice, their own energy. And, you know, the more we give ourselves permission to do this, the more powerful we become. And I think it's lovely for us to have some platform for expression. which sadly is really missing in the lives of so many people that I meet. And it's beginning to kind of be lost a bit within our education system as well at the moment, which is very sad. You know, we need to have space to be able to really express how we feel in whatever shape or form that comes. And I think if we have some sort of creative platform that really helps us to cope with many of the demands we have in our lives, but also help us to continue to expand ourselves and to grow and develop into, you know, really the people we were born to be. So that is something I would really like you to consider. What are your gifts? What are you naturally very good at? What would you perhaps like to return to? Again, some of these things perhaps you naturally felt you gravitated towards as a child, but then kind of life took over and you had other responsibilities. Is there something you would like to return to that you truly, truly love? Meeting like-minded people, I believe, is very important. Again, remember, if only 20% of our population is naturally sensitive, and the remaining, say, 80% may be less sensitive, then spending time with like-minded people is hugely important. These people are naturally going to see things and sense things and process things in a similar way to you. Think about where you can meet them. Can you join in any online groups? Particularly if you don't like crowded situations, maybe you feel more comfortable perhaps being online. Is there a regular activity that could support your sensitivity? You know, relaxation classes, Tai Chi, Qigong, you know, maybe an art class, a whole variety of things that could be available to support someone like yourself. So maybe thinking about a class, a workshop, a program, or even a retreat. And I think one of the fundamental things as well is learning about your sensitivity. For me, it took me on an amazing journey. I learned so much about myself and my own unique sensitivity, and I've certainly continued to develop that through all the courses and workshops that I've run over the years. When your mindset begins to really change around this and you really begin to see this as your greatest gift, it just opens up so many doors, and actually many people start to come to you and say, actually, you know, I really love that about you, the fact that you've got such an eye for detail, or you're very sensitive to the needs of others. A lot of people say to me, which really makes me feel good, they say to me, you know, I always feel so safe with you, Gabrielle. I can tell you anything. And I know that, you know, you'll hold space for me just to show up however I need to be on that particular day. So again, you know, sensitive people have this remarkable ability to hold space for others. When you learn about your sensitivity, you will naturally gravitate to those spaces where you know who you need to be around and which environment you need to be in. You notice which environments really do support you positively. And you start to adjust your routine as well and your own environment to support your own needs. What I'd like to do now is just take you into a little gentle relaxation, if that's okay with you. If you'd like to just get yourself into a comfortable position. Now, this is often what I do with young people, because as lovely as it is for them to, you know, follow mindfulness activities and relaxation and meditation, I think sometimes when they close their eyes, if the energy field is very open, as often sensitive young people, you know, it will be, if you can help them create a safe space they can go to, even if they see or witness something they don't want to see, you can remind them to always take themselves into that safe space. So this is something I'd like to share with you to see what comes up for you in this. It's only going to be 10 minutes or so. I'm just going to check on the time. Yeah. So if you'd just like to find a comfortable position, where you're sitting, and just feel your feet ideally flat on the floor with your legs uncrossed. And if you feel comfortable, just to gently close your eyes. And we're just going to begin by taking a few deeper soul cleansing breaths. And as you breathe in and breathe out, just be aware of that gentle rhythm of your breath coming into your body and then gently floating out again. It's just allowing you to relax gently, softly, to create a little bit of space in your day where you can tune in to how you feel. Initially, you might notice some of the subtle energy within your own environment, maybe sounds in the room, maybe feelings within your body. Maybe you can sense your own heart beating in the center of your chest. Maybe the warmth in the room. And as you begin to just slow down and really focus on the breath now, I'd like you to imagine that you're just sending some strong roots from the soles of your feet down into the earth beneath you. And they're wrapping themselves around a beautiful piece of crystal that you've buried in the earth. And with your next breath, I'd like you to imagine that you're drawing up from this crystal the most beautiful golden light. And this golden light is flowing through your roots and into the soles of your feet. And as it reaches into the lower part of your legs and begins to travel up through your body, it just allows every cell within your body to relax and be, to create space for you to just sit softly, gently, feeling this light gently pouring into your body, nourishing you, relaxing you, supporting you in so many different ways. And that golden light continues up through your body. It's traveling slowly, working its way up through your legs and into the lower part of your spine, traveling up through your spine very slowly and gently. As it does so, it reaches into all the cells around your body. And you're drawing the golden light now up into your upper part of the body, to your neck and shoulders. It is releasing any tension. As it reaches into the head, into the back of the neck, you just feel a sense of letting go. And now that golden light is reaching the top of your head. And it forms a beautiful cascade of light. As it reaches the top of your head, it pours out like a fountain of light all around your body. Just imagine doing that for a couple more times now. Just draw the energy up from your feet once again, bringing it up through your body to the top of your head. And as this golden light flows out of the top of your head, it forms the most beautiful fountain of golden light. It is almost as if you are sitting within a beautiful golden egg of energy, which is so protective and so nourishing, supportive and loving. And you begin to radiate this golden light now. Let's feel that golden light vibrating all around you. And I'd like you to imagine that that golden light now is spilling out onto this pathway in front of you. And you begin to notice and feel this pathway opening up, which is encouraging you to move towards your own sacred space, a space that feels safe for you to be in, a space that you can return to time and again, whenever you need to. You may begin to see or feel or sense your own particular space opening up in your imagination now. It may surprise you, the space that your imagination has chosen today. I hope it is somewhere that feels safe and loving and supportive. A space where you can relax and rest a while. Just notice any particular aspects of this space. Perhaps there are colors or shapes or patterns, or even memories within this space. You may even be joined by a particular person or the energy of a particular being within this space, just to give you a sense of reassurance and love. And as you continue to breathe in and out, just feel that loving, gentle energy continue to radiate all around you as you connect more deeply with this beautiful space that really serves you in so many ways. Take a moment to notice the details, to feel just how beautiful it is to be able to rest here a while. As you continue to breathe and relax, you are bringing this space alive within your imagination. And within that space, it can become very real. Just notice how this space makes you feel. Notice how quickly you reached into that comfort that it provides. And it is here for you at any time that you need. Very soon, I'm going to begin to ask you to gently step back from that space, knowing it's always there to support you. And you begin to connect with the path once again, the path of golden light. And you begin to journey back along that golden pathway now, back towards your body, wherever your physical body is sitting or resting. Begin to feel your body merging now, your physical, your emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies, all merging back together as one. Take a little time now just to begin to reconnect your feet and the energy of your roots, really noticing them growing even more strongly and deeply into the earth now. And once again, wrapping themselves around that beautiful piece of crystal, just to ground yourself completely. You can continue to breathe in that beautiful golden light for as long as you need. You may also like to just wrap a comfort blanket or a cloak of protection around your shoulders to contain your energy, to pull your whole energy field in. Just imagine it coming in close to you now, helping you feel very safe and very protected as you come back into this physical world. And gently now take a few deep breaths, and in your own time, slowly coming back into space, feeling comfortable, feeling relaxed, feeling completely at ease, having created your very safe and loving space. I'm going to give you a few minutes just to come back, journey back into your space, into your room. It would be interesting, perhaps after this call, you might like to write down anything you saw or felt within that space. It's amazing how quickly we can enter into that kind of space when we need to. So just as I begin to close here, I'd like to just mention a few things that I think would be really helpful for you and for those you care for who may be sensitive, that really help to provide a greater sense of peace and harmony, perhaps in your home or your workspace, wherever you need to be. So having a positive routine is really, really supportive. Being able to really get good quality sleep, a healthy diet, plenty of water, opportunities to ground yourself and really be present. Having some kind of method that enables you to really explore your emotions and feelings as they rise. Perhaps it could be journaling or EFT or, whatever it is you use. You might find that a yoga class really helps you. It's going to be different for different people. And I think with sensitive people, setting and maintaining healthy boundaries is essential as well. Reducing stimulation in our home and work environment is hugely helpful too. A lot of sensitive people I know really suffer when they're in a place that has bright lights, loud sounds, strong smells. Our Wi-Fi, we've got so many devices these days. Having a variety of things to support us energetically and stop the radiation from affecting us is really, really important too. And that could be the subject of another talk, really, because there's so much. But I know, Karen and Suzanne, you've got some amazing tools that you can recommend that people use perhaps on their computers and mobile phones to just, slow down the emissions from those. Media, we have to be very careful what we are connecting in with these days. A lot of sensitive people I know really struggle with any kind of form of aggression or violence on television or in films. So again, it's almost censoring these things before you come into contact with them. I think it's vital that you learn really solid energy clearing techniques that you can use in your home environment and in your workspace. I personally love to have crystals around me. I'm very careful how I use them. And again, these are all kind of things that I think can be really, really useful for sensitive people. Having some black obsidian or tourmaline or some kind of pendant that is very protective of your energy field. There's a lot of orgonite coming onto the market now. I don't know if many of you have seen that, but again, a fairly inexpensive material that can be worn as a pendant, or you can have a pyramid near your computer so you're not picking up the radiation that is coming from these devices. And I think really sensitive people really do benefit from having some very sound protection techniques. Such a variety you could choose from. I think these need to be maintained fairly frequently. If you may be someone that likes to visualize perhaps a white bubble of light around you, that might not be strong enough. You might need something more tangible. So again, any questions, I'll happily take them at the end to see, maybe what other suggestions I can provide. I teach something called energy harmonization, which is a very powerful system of energy healing, which also clears people's spaces and animals too. It uses dowsing and it sends powerful light codes of energy to support individuals and spaces and reduce negativity, release uncomfortable emotions, but also any toxicity that may have formed around the individual. And I think, generally speaking, taking time out to relax is such a priority. We live in a very stimulating world that was really designed by people who are generally less sensitive than us. So very, very important to have that time out. So I provide a whole range of resources. I've got a secret to sensitivity ebook, which I'll happily send you. I shall give you my email at the end. At the Karana Center, over the course of the autumn and winter, I've been running these 3-hour beginners crystal healing workshops, and they've been super popular. I've had some great people coming in. It's a lovely thing as well for adults to come in if they've got, say, a teenager and they know the teenager is quite sensitive and won't want to come on their own. It's quite a nice thing for a parent and child to do together. So I've still got spaces. There's one on the 4th of December and one on the 22nd of December. And then hopefully next year we'll set some new dates. But it's just a lovely opportunity to learn how to work with crystals, how to sort of protect your energy field a bit more. We do a little bit of healing with it as well. Yeah, they're great fun, really. I also provide talks for parents, carers, and teachers. If you know an organisation that would like a talk, I should be very happy to offer that. One-to-one mentoring and support using energy harmonization, and also group training in energy harmonization as well. So there's my email. If you would like to get in touch, feel free. It would be lovely to hear from you. And yeah, if you have any questions, I'll be very happy to stay on the call and do my best to answer those.
Thank you, Gabrielle. That was
You're very, very welcome.
That was great. Thank you so much. So much information. And I think probably everyone on this call resonates with what you're saying. I think we're all sensitive souls here. So very, very interesting way of looking at it. I've not really looked at it that way before, you know, so always resonated with being an empath, but the way you put it across, it sort of makes a lot of sense. So yeah, so let's open up to any questions. Anyone got any questions? Everyone, just open up your mic if you, yeah, Suzanne, go ahead.
So thank you, Gabrielle. That was lovely. I feel very relaxed and I had a very nice
Good
journey to the Magical Mountain, which is a book, A Journey to the Magic Mountain, I read when I was really little.
Oh, beautiful.
I ended up there with my dragon friend and a unicorn. So lovely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My daughter and a couple of her friends actually are quite interested in crystals, but they don't have, you know, much of a clue what they're doing with them. And I'm not always the best person to teach that. I'm not a crystal therapist. I've just bumbled my own way through. So your workshops, are they daytime ones? Are they Saturdays normally?
The workshops I've run so far have generally been in the school holidays.
Right.
Moving forward, I'm not entirely sure when they're going to happen, because we often have other workshops coming into the space at the weekend. So, you know, I don't always have the space to be able to share them. But the ones in school holidays are great because often they haven't then got the pressure at all of any you know, thinking about going back to school the next day or whatever. They've actually got a decent amount of time off that they can
the 22nd is the holidays, isn't it?
It is. That's actually the reason why I've done it just before Christmas, because I felt they'd have another couple of weeks to be able to really, you know, practice some of the things that I'll be sharing with them when they're in their home environment. And you know, I think it's definitely so important for our children and young people to have real downtime. It doesn't often happen these days, you know. They're often, you know, in school for most of the day. Then if they've got after school clubs, maybe weekend activities, they don't really have enough time to really switch off properly and really get good quality sleep and relaxation time. And I think if you can teach them how to work with crystals for that purpose, that will enable them to really benefit from so much. You know, I teach them how to relax with crystals, journey with crystals, tune into crystals. So and they literally write pages. I mean, they absolutely amaze me. There'll be 2 or 3 pages of A4 they will have written about their crystal journey. And then, you know, next time they buy a new crystal, not only will they know how to look after it and cleanse it and program it, but they'll also know how to journey with it. And what it does as well is it really keeps their imagination very active and alive. So they begin to really connect to the deeper parts within themselves, and
That's
find
parents and children, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So the free
Or
crystal,
anybody who wants to come.
yeah, the free crystal workshop is designed really for adults and young people who have the ability to just sit in meditation, say for about 15-20 minutes. I generally say about, you know, 12 and upwards, but to be honest, there are some younger ones that do have that ability to sit very quietly, and they'd be very welcome to. Yeah.
What are the timings for that?
It's generally 2 till 5.
Okay.
3 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Lovely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We've had a few people that needed to leave earlier, so I don't know if you've seen the chat. So
Yeah.
let's just read some of those.
Yes, sure.
So Julia would like the recording because she had to leave it for another meeting. Caroline's crosses up north, wishes you were a bit nearer. And who else had to pop off? I think that Christine's just needed to go as well. Is that
Christine? Christine's just gone, yeah.
Anyone else have any questions or any insights or anything to share from the meditation, maybe?
That was a lovely meditation. I went off all over the place. I could hear you, but I wasn't here.
Yeah. So it was your talk was very thorough. I think you covered everything that people would need to know. So
yeah.
So if you could post your email and website address in the Telegram group as well.
Yes.
You've got this next week to pop stuff in about you.
Yeah, and your workshop to promote anything that you're doing right now.
Fabulous.
I'll use that space, and then as the week changes, we'll start promoting the next person that comes along. But feel free to pop your stuff in there for this week.
Sure, lovely. And I would just like to quickly add that anything I've shared really supports sensitive animals as well, because we as empaths often attract.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people here have cats and dogs that also exhibit those.
Oh, totally.
Signs of being highly sensitive, and animals are wonderful mirrors, just as children are. And you know, I think if you keep your home environment particularly clear of negative energy and some of the more sort of complex energies, you know, like geopathic stress and things like this, it helps everyone in the environment, you know, the people living there, but also the animals as well. So yeah, I'll just add that as well. But if there's any specific questions that perhaps people would like to share with me individually, please feel free to email them through. I shall happily, you know, answer those as best I can. And yeah, I wish you all well with your journey and kind of really growing into your gifts as a sensitive or an empath. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much.
Gabrielle.
That's lovely, Gabrielle. Really nice. Thank you.
Everyone enjoyed it. Everyone's saying thank you. It's fabulous. So
we'll send the recording out once it's converted.
Yeah, we will.